Six Ages Gaming is brought to you by GamersGauntlet.net. Check them out for all your single, sealed product, and playmats.
Hey guys, welcome to another deck spotlight brought to you by Six Ages Gaming and Gamers Gauntlet. I have for you the Burning Tree Reflect Rush deck. The reason why I call it Burning Tree is because I geared against the tree decks, knowing that that's what people would be bringing to the events. I went 5-0 undefeated, beat a tree deck in Swiss as well, and had a lot of fun playing the deck. So not a lot has changed, but there were a few tech choices that really make it an interesting list. So first I'll talk about the ruler, which probably won't need much introduction. I'll talk about the stone base, going to the main deck, and then I'll even talk about these sideboard cards and what changes we will make in the future should we be playing this list again. So up first we have the ruler, Reflect, Refrain. I'm sure by now you're familiar with this card, but basically on the ruler side, it can filter a card every turn, pump something, or untap something at the end, during your end phase. Only use one of these, but basically I've used every single mode in a tournament to actually get that 5-0 victory. But what's more important is on the other side, Refrain, is the bounce ability. Like sure, tutoring is good and all that stuff, but being able to bounce their Alice in the tree decks is just how you win a lot of the times. And I'm not sure how Bahamut or Sylvia would be able to manage in those matchups. And it's something that I tested with because I certainly didn't want to play another Reflect Refrain deck, let alone play a red deck in a tournament, but it turns out it's still good. Being able to tutor for the Thunder for the last little bit of damage you need, or tutoring for literally anything, is really good in this deck. So our stone base should come as no surprise. One little red, the Pure Stone. This is great for buffing your own guys, helping Lancelot get to 1,000 attack so he can deal with 700 damage, and just good for pumping all of your Resonators since you're playing an all-red deck. Because we're playing a Pricia, which you'll see in a bit, we play 4 Magic Stone of Blasting Waves. We play some Rapid Growth and we play some sideboard tech like Elvish Bowman, but ultimately it's just there to support the Pricia, which is the best card in the deck probably. And then lastly, we have just 5 basic Firestones. We need to cast all fire. We still don't want to hurt ourselves to split, so the last 5 slots are going to that. For our 1-drops, 4 Rukh Eggs. Nothing new about this card. Still going to be one of the best cards in any red deck, simply because it can tutor any card. Card definitely should have had some limitations in what it can grab, but turns out when all your Resonators are red and you leave a one of Susan in the deck, sure, you can just tutor them up whenever you need them and get to have those certain tech cards in the deck. 4 Thunders. Basically, I tutor these away every game because I don't want to draw them early. You want to draw them in the mid to late game when you need the last bit of burn to finish off your opponent, or you want to leave them in the deck so Reflect can tutor for them so you can kill your opponent on their draw step or at the start of their turn. These were just more of random check choices. Flame Sprite, simply because I wanted a 1-drop Resonator with swiftness that I could equip Ame to and basically math out some turns to where playing an Ame on Flame Sprite for the win. Is how I was beating the tree decks, and that actually happened twice that I needed the Flame Sprite. So definitely an interesting card in the deck, and also if you just put a turn 2 on the draw, if you play Flame Sprite into turn 2 Ame and kill their Lancelot or something, that feels pretty good as well. Then 2 Rapid Growths, just your standard battle trick. Another great way to pump Lancelot to 1,000 attacks, so you can deal with 700 damage, and the fact that it has Remnant, so you can flash it back from the graveyard for a low cost of green is really helpful. For our 2-drops, we have 2 Drove with the Fire Rat. Knowing that I was going to see a lot of players I'm used to playing against, and knowing that everyone likes playing red at the start of a new format, we put 2 of these mains just to help break up the mirror match or anyone else that's playing the deck. 3 Purifying Fire. The thing I like most about this deck is that it has more dedicated burn spells than what you might normally see. So in the early game, you just filter for all your Resonators. Usually they'll have like removal spells, signs, stonings, what have you. And then you basically just run them out or bait out their counter spells, so then you can resolve either a split or a more effective spell. And this is a really great way of pressuring their life totals. Definitely the MVP of the deck or the card for the weekend was Ame. Usually the decks run 2, just kind of a, hey, if you draw type of thing. The reason I ran the 3rd copy was because of the tree decks and knowing it's basically the only way you're going to effectively kill Alice without having to do a lot of awkward combat math and other things. And again, if you could just outplay your opponent, you can bait them into countering something else, land an Ame, and then just kill them that turn with a Flame Sprite or some other Swiftness Resonator. Turns out, when they all have Swiftness, it's pretty good. Oops. 4 Split Heaven and Earths. If you've been following the US page at all, you know that I'm a big proponent for this card. At any time that the format rotates, everyone wants to try new cards. They want to get greedy they want to, you know, play all the special stones, and this is just a great way to punish them early on and right out of the gate. And then lastly, the classic 2-drop that everyone loves to hate, Lancelot. 600 with swiftness at 2 costs is, you know, fine, and then he has the ability to pump himself with fire breathing, is what we call it for Magic. And then lastly, he can deal 700 damage to something if he has over 1,000 attack. So obviously with Ame, the card becomes insane, but it's just a good way to pump, other ways to pump him up and make it 1,000 attack and gets additional value out of it. For 3-drops, we play 3 Cthulhus, which should be no surprise. Incarnating over Egg for basically free, and then getting any other resonator we want is really strong at pressuring your opponent's life total early, especially if you're on the play and you get the opening hands like Egg, Cthulhu, and then just 15 them out of nowhere, or 17 if you use Reflex Pump based on what's in your hand. Can make it very easy for you to close out the game with burn spells. The other 4 in our 3-drop slot is Pricia. I absolutely fell in love with this card. I was too busy testing Athena and trying to make a big red deck that's decent, so I didn't have a lot of time to really test out this card. But once you realize the interaction between her and Cthulhu, and just being able to make them take 500 damage and then take 500 more from a Cthulhu, more than likely, I was able to 2,900 my opponent out of nowhere and just close out games when they otherwise thought they were safe. So the fact it can also give herself flying was very relevant in a couple of matchups. So it's overall just a very great card, and if they let you resolve Pricia, it's something that they're going to have to deal with, or at least take a Thunder. So I like to think of it as Thunder 5 through 8 in the deck. And lastly, Flame King Shout. Part of this was color fixing for Pricia in case we get unlucky and hit 3 Firestones off the top. It's good for clearing out Morgianas and Cheshire Cats and any kind of Gruddles, stuff like that, because you want to make sure your damage is getting through every turn. So it's definitely a great card to make sure you're not getting catwalled off in certain matchups. And then lastly, just a 1 of Susan. I expected to see some number of Alice's World, and there was only 1 Alice's World based deck that was in the tournament. I think it's still a fine choice. I have 1 main and 1 in the sideboard, I guess simply because I respect those decks. And I was able to land up when my opponent decided into Bahamut. Because we run the 3 Ame's main, it's always good value to be able to Ame up the Susan as he comes into play, and just 36 or 3,200 your opponent out of nowhere, 34 if you play Reflect. Going to the sideboard, 1 more Susan, again, just because expected to see a bunch of Alice's World decks. 1 Fetal Movement in Outer World. This is something I wish I would have had more of, actually. I forgot that it doesn't target. It targets the player's graveyard, but not the opponent on resolution of the burn spell part of it. So in the game that I actually won in Game 3 against the Tree deck, I was able to bounce their Alice and then play my field targeting my graveyard, hitting them for 100 before they could cast the Alice again. So that was something, I mean, you probably only need 1 because you want to tutor for it anyways, but in some matchups it's good to have another 1 of. 2 Certo, credit to James on this one. We were playtesting a lot of the Angel deck. Being able to turn off their life gain is actually very important. So in Game 2, Daryl counterspelled this against me, and it felt pretty bad, and we lost the game through a myriad of other ways, but I think if I was able to resolve this spell, it probably would have won me that matchup on the spot. So being able to turn off Lucifer or Seraph when she goes to attack are very relevant things, and I don't think this is going to be, you know, a mainstay sideboard slot, but if we see more of the Angel package, it most certainly will. Then we have 2 Demon Flames. Because we run the 2 Flame Sprites main, being able to ping something and then destroy it for a low cost of 1 red is very helpful and very effective in those more mid-rangey, grindy decks, or if you just need to get a Lucifer off the table, that's another time that you might want to be bringing those in. For our green out of the sideboard, we have 2 Elvish Bowmen. This is really important for the mirror match, or I guess anytime other they might want to have addition removal. When they're playing robes in their matchups, if you don't have a way to get rid of them, it can be really, really awkward for you. So I think 2 Elvish Bowmen is fine, but it's something that you definitely want to have, something to consider in your sideboard. 2 Gareth, this was just another Mirror-based card. Putting in off Flame King Shout, being able to kill something of theirs, and him just being able to live because of the has to deal more than 800 damage to it, and the fact he has target attack can really help out your matchup. So this was another thing that James suggested, and it was when I brought it in the mirror, it turns out it was just pure gas. 2 Maribel. This again was thinking about the tree decks and wanting to destroy their Excaliburs, so we could just bounce their Alice and then finish them off with the Thunder. Things like that always are. You have to think about how many different ways you can beat the Alice's or tree decks, so they don't have the opportunity to just cancel all your important spells. You need to be able to attack them from multiple angles and really stress their resources. And then lastly, we have 3 Rapid Decay. Card is just a good thing to have, especially if you're on the draw. Sometimes you just bring it in against the mirror decks if you're feeling that you need to be low to the ground, or if they have the Lumia card, which is what Daryl put in his sideboard. I actually got time locked 3 turns in a row because he played Lumia after Lumia. So I would attack for 1100 basically, he would sack the Lumia, put himself back up to 30. Pretty sure that was also in game 2 where I lost that he was doing that. So this is a great way to be able to cheaply remove their Lumia if you don't have a pump spell for Landslot or something, so they don't get the life gain. So overall, probably my 2 favorite things in the deck were Pricia and Cthulhu. Obviously, thanks to Rukh Egg and other cards in the deck and reflex filtering and all that stuff that makes these interactions possible. But in some matchups, I like to sandbag, 1 to 2 Cthulhus so I can attack with Pricia for 9, put in a Cthulhu over her. The trigger from her will deal 500 damage. You swing with Cthulhu, deal another 500 damage, and then play another Cthulhu. Especially in the mirror, they're not calculating that much damage. So there's a lot of, I think there was like 3 or 4 games I actually won playing this combo, and this is basically what sold me on the deck. I think Pricia is just an amazing card. Obviously, like Landslide and all that stuff is good too, don't get me wrong, but I was really impressed with her with the fact that she has First Strike, like all her effects, and then the fact you can give her Flight on top of that, or Flying, and she deals 500 damage when she leaves the battlefield. I was just really, really impressed with. So that's the deck that won, or I should say had first seed going into top 8. We ended up all splitting because there was 6 people from Gamers Gauntlet in top 8, and we all wanted to go out to lunch together. So went undefeated with it though. Had a great time playing basically with a bunch of friends and some other people too that came in from out of town or out of state. So thanks to Ultra Reality Games for hosting the event. Thanks to Gamers Gauntlet for vending the event, and you can check them out at gamersgauntlet.net. And we'll definitely have some more deck lists and deck profiles up for you guys soon. So make sure to like the video. That helps us get more exposure out there. Drop us a comment below what you think about the deck, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for future Force of Will content. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the next 6 Sages Gaming Deck Spotlight. Have a good one.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and leave us a comment with what you thought of the video. Don't forget to subscribe to 6 Sage Gaming and check out some of the deck spotlights, duel series, and Force of Community videos that are already on the channel. We also have a Facebook and a Twitter, so feel free to find us there. Lastly, if you have a deck that you would like featured in a video, be sure to drop us a comment below. Until next time, take it easy.